Worker with AEBG TAB. Thank you for joining today's webinar on the AEBG Fiscal System, NOVA. For today's webinar, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat pod. An email was sent out to all registered participants with the link or an attachment to today's PowerPoint presentation. If you did not receive that or were unable to download the PowerPoint presentation, it is provided to you in the resources pod. Just click on the file and click download the file and it will appear on your screen. In addition, when you come in, please press the white or green sound icon at the top of the window. This will provide sound to you. Use a computer or a headset for best audio. Use a headset for best audio. If you happen to dial in, we have provided the dial-in information if you do not have sound. If you are hearing an echo, please check to ensure you are not signed in more than once. If there is a number 2 next to your name, this indicates to us that you are signed in more than once, and that could be a factor in you hearing an echo. If this is the case, please exit out of Adobe Connect, come back in, and log back in, and you should only be logged in once. If you would like to increase your screen to a full screen during this PowerPoint presentation, please do so by pressing the full screen icon up top. It's the 4 arrows that are pointing outward. But please note, if you do select full screen, you will not be able to see or contribute to the chat pod. In order to get back to a normal screen and be able to see and contribute to the chat pod, you will have to select the full screen icon up top again, but this time it will be 4 pointing arrows inward. If you have any support requests, please contact AEBG TAB by visiting the website, the support page on the website, or you can email us at tap@aebg.org, or you can give us a telephone call at 888-TAP-AEBG.org. Immediately following this presentation, you will receive an evaluation. It will appear on your window. Please be sure to fill out this evaluation. It is our way of receiving feedback regarding the webinar and addressing any technical assistance or professional development needs you may have. So now I'm going to turn it over to Neil Kelly, who will begin the presentation. It's Neil Kelly from the AEBG office along with Nicole Alexander. And Neil, you can take it from here.
All right, thanks, Veronica. So I just typed in, for those who can't hear me, that they should be typing in the chat if they're having a problem hearing the audio. But if you're hearing this, you have no problem. So today we have myself, we have Nicole Alexander from the AEBG office. Some of you might have been working with her to get your passwords. And then later on we'll have Ryan French from Product Ops. And we'll go through similar slides that we did the first time, but we'll also cover some of the possible user tips or issues that people might be having using NOVA, so that'll be an extra special bonus for today. And then I think we're going to, on November 29th, and Veronica will fill us in on the details, we'll have another NOVA webinar, but this time we'll try a live demo for those who are having problems maybe typing in their budget or work plan information. And so we'll do that live. We might even bring a few users into the mix. And so mark that down for your calendars on November 29th. I think that'll be 1 o'clock, probably to 2:30. Okay, so let us begin. Feel free to use the chat. They are troubleshoot. We have a technician standing by to help troubleshoot some of the problems if you can't hear me or if they're having any kind of other problems. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk about the current status of the fiscal system. We'll give an update on NOVA. Why are we changing? Why are we using NOVA? We'll go through some of the phases of the NOVA build-out. And then Nicole will take us through a walkthrough. Ryan French will be available at that time too, and then Nicole will talk about some NOVA tips. And we'll wrap up with enough time to answer your questions. And the questions are important because this is all new. We are shifting fiscal systems, so I'm sure people will have tons of clarifying questions. So let's begin. Current status of our AEBG fiscal system. So a little tricky. We're going to keep the 15-16 funds in that same Chancellor's Office online system. And so when you close out those funds at the end of this year, you will have to report in that old system. Most of you have spent this funding. We only have a small amount of 15-16 funds left, so that'll be good. The other thing is that data and accountability funding will be closed out in this system, and we did extend those funds for another year. So you will have to use that Chancellor's Office system and those passwords until we close out all those older 15-16 funding. So like I said, it would be the 15-16 consortia funding as well as the data and accountability funding. And then if you did have a budget change for those two fund sources, you would have to do those by December 20th. And then in January, we'd have expense reports due for the 15-16 consortia funding due at the end of January, as well as a midterm data and accountability funding report due on January 31st of next year. Well, actually, there'd be a midterm for data and accountability due January 31st of 2018, and then the final will be due January 31st of 2019. And then 15-16 funds close out by the end of February 2018. And then, like I said, with data and accountability, after that final report in January of 2019, then you'll close that out the end of February 2019. So I wanted to just make sure that everybody was clear on that. And do I see any questions? Does anybody have any questions on the 15-16 funding or the data and accountability funding staying in the old system? If not, I'm going to move on. Okay, I see nobody typing. Okay, next slide. So the current status of the NOVA system. That's the new system. That launched last week, October 25th. And so in NOVA, we're going to start with 16-17 and 17-18 AEBG funding. And so the AEBG budget that you're going to be working on that's due December 15th will be your 16-17 carryover that's coming into this year and your 17-18 funding that you received either a few weeks ago or last month. So just to repeat, for the calendar year starting July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, you'll have a 16-17 carryover and a 17-18 funding budget. So does that make sense to everyone? I'll wait to see if we have any questions. Please confirm the 15-16 allocation included the data and accountability funds. So Lynette, you do have two separate funding codes. There's one for 15-16 consortia funds, and there's one for data and accountability funding. So they'll both be in that old system, but they will have different passcodes. You can't combine them. You'll be reporting on them separately. So hopefully that made sense. And they are not in AEBG NOVA. They are in the old Chancellor's Office system. Okay, and then a question from Kathy. How will the 16-17 carryover be confirmed? So in the old system, your last report was July of 2017 on your 16-17 funds. So the members would be working off that information that you supplied to the consortium, and the consortium reported to the state. Then you would report what that carryover amount would be going into NOVA. And so we know that there could have been some adjustments happening between the last report of July of 2017 and what you're going to put into NOVA. Somebody might have had an error or a correction. And so what what we want you to do is put in that amount that you had. So if a member got, I don't know, $1 million, and last year they spent $500,000, and they're bringing in $500,000 into this year, then that's what you would report. If they had an error, like a $5,000 error or something, and they said, oh, we only spent $495,000, not $500,000, so we're bringing in more. You can adjust that during the year, kind of like we did. We don't want to go back and try to adjust and change as we cross systems. And so is that clear? And we would allow the member and the consortia both would certify that that carryover amount is accurate, because the state has no record of at the member level what they're carrying in or carrying over into the next year. So we would rely upon the consortia director lead and the member both certifying that that information was correct based on the information that you had. So let's see, do we have any questions here? The 15 will be done by the consortia, correct? Yes. So like Nicole said, nothing changes on the reporting in the old Chancellor's Office system. And so Nicole said, yes, the 15-16 report will remain the same and be completed by the consortium. That is correct. If you had a negative carryover from one of the members and overspent, so you would have to adjust that in this year. And so, you know, you have actually you have first and second, third, and fourth quarter to do those adjustments. So you would have to adjust that in NOVA. Am I able to update and correct the CFIDE allocations for 17-18? Yes. No, and Nicole will show you a little bit of this. NOVA will allow you and the members to certify and approve any CFAD allocation adjustments or corrections. Okay, and then Tracy said, is the budget change on 16-17 done on NOVA as well? Yes, and so we're working on the budget revision, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that will also be done in NOVA. Are we able to enter actual member expenditures for 16-17? So Lynette, what you'll do is when you carry in the 16-17 expenses and combine them with the 17-18, well, actually you'll carry in the carryover, so what's remaining along with what you received this year. You'll be reporting on expenses for the calendar year, and so when we subtract those expenses, we'll subtract them from the 16-17 carryover first, rather than the new money. So it's always a first in, first out. So let's say you got $1 million in 17-18 and you carried in or carried over $500,000 from 16-17. So your calendar or program year budget is $1.5 million. The first money that you spend will come out of that $500,000 that you carried in or carried over. And then once you spend down that $500,000, we'll close out 16-17, and then the expenditures will be going towards the 17-18 new funding. Does that make sense? That way we don't get in this business where people in the old way were not spending their 15-16 and were spending down their 16-17 money. It got very confusing. So it'll be a first in, first out. And let's see. So to verify, this is from Kristen, and then I'm going to move on. So to verify that carryover is based on actual amounts spent by members, not blanket amounts passed through by a CCD. You're right. So we're not, in the new system, we are not tracking pass-through anymore. That is a mechanism to get the money to the member. Now we are focused on tracking the member budget and the member spending. So we don't really need to document any of the pass-through. So if the member is not getting the money passed through to them, that's a problem we'll take outside of NOVA. We don't need to report whether you got it or you didn't. What we need to report is at the member level, what are you expending, and then we'll roll that up. So if you have 10 members, we'll roll up 10 members' budgets and 10 members' expenditure reports to get that consortia level spending and budget. Okay, and someone's going to work with Joan. I'm going to move on. So really quickly, the work plans will be included in the budget drill. And so what the work plans are your annual plans that you submitted in August. And we've downloaded all the strategies that you put in your annual plan. And so each member, all they have to do to create a work plan is just check off which strategies they will be working on during the program year, and that will be their work plan. So let's say your consortia submitted an annual plan with 15 strategies, and you as a member, you're going to work on 4 of those. So you would check off those 4 strategies, and that would be your work plan that you're working on, and then you would show us a budget based on those strategies that you're going to be working on. And the budget would be 1,000 through 7,000 and any indirect. And so we're not going to be tracking budget by objective. We're not going to be tracking budget by program area. It's just going to be object code. And so that should make it a lot simpler. So I'm going to move on to the next slide because I want to get to Nicole. So why the change? Well, as you know, the old Chancellor's Office system was not set up for consortia structured funding. It was set up for one grantee and one grant amount. So that didn't really work well because we had some consortia with like 15 members, so it was all rolling up. So we had no way of knowing what was being expensed at the member level. And then we also had no way of knowing what indirect rate people were using. Plus, the old system was allowing the bulk of the funding to be consolidated in the pass-through. And that's what Kristen just talked about, are we tracking pass-through? So what pass-through did is people were putting it, all the money in object code 5,000s or 7,000s and saying, hey, this is what, as a fiscal agent, we rolled out to members. So it really didn't tell us anything. So with NOVA, we get the member budget by object of expenditure code, and it really tells us a lot more than what we knew for the last few years with EBG funding. This will also allow us to know how much people are spending at the consortia level for administration. And then finally, it'll give us an idea of comparing student data outcomes to work plans to financial accountability when we start bringing in data from Launchboard. Let's see. Okay, Annabelle. Do all strategies need to be addressed by the consortia? So if you put them in the annual plan as a strategy, somebody should be working on those. So I'm not saying that every member has to work on every plan, but when you go over your work plans and your budget, there should be a divvying up of who's going to work on what, since that's the plan you submitted to the state. If that's not the case, you might want to let us know, and you might want to update that plan if it's not practical and no one's going to address some of those strategies. Andrea says, is there a template being provided for the work plan, or do we make our own? So Andrea, the template is really built into NOVA. Everything's into NOVA. There's no more CFAD. There's no more annual plan template. There's no more spending plan. All of this is built in NOVA. Everything's online. And so your work plan will be, you'll look at all the strategies that are online in the system, and you'll check a box. And that will create your work plan. And so you don't have to do a template. You don't have to submit your own template. It'll be all in the system. So Anna says, when and how do we get logons to NOVA? So Nicole will go over that. We've sent those passwords and access to various people throughout the state from the various membership. And Nicole will explain how you get access to that and what address list or member list we use to send those out. And so if you were supposed to be accessing NOVA for your district, Nicole will explain how to take care of that. And then GV says, for adult school, is indirect taken from the MOU or MOU and AEBG fund combined? So when you mean MOU, are you meaning MOE? I'm not sure, but for the adult schools, the rules are indirect is taken from your state-approved indirect rate. So CTE has approved an indirect rate for each of the districts, and the adult schools would follow that indirect rate. They can't charge anything above it. They can go below it if they want. So that would be on any funds, whether it was your base, which some call MOE, or your consortia funds, which are on top of your MOE. Going into this year, it's all combined, so it's all consortia funds. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to move on to the next slide. So why NOVA? Well, we needed to replace the portal. The portal was great, and it worked very well, but it didn't give us some of the capabilities we're looking for. So in NOVA, all members can go in and update their contact information. So we have 450 members, and we have 450 member representatives, and we have 450 different contact information. So we want to allow you, the member, to go in and update that. So when the board changes membership reps and officially recognizes somebody else because of retirement or they left or for whatever reason, we want the member to go in and make that update. Okay, this will also give the consortia leads more oversight and access to update their consortia webpage. So that's the webpage you see on the AEBG website. So through NOVA, you can go in and make all those changes by the consortia director. You don't have to contact anybody at the state. And then every day we do a download to the website that will update that information. And so we want to make sure this is the one-stop shop for you to go to, because it'll have all your forms that you've submitted, all your historical documents, all the consortia level information, and that will be downloaded to the website for transparency for the public to see and anybody else associated with adult education in the state. Eventually, we'll be combining we're combining the financial information with the consortia information, and eventually we'll have student data information once Launchboard comes up. And that'll allow us to track other programs and metrics and provide some innovation down the road. So Daniel says, the consortia creates a plan. Are we now going to have reports individually how effective each member performed rather than a consortium? I think that's the way you're going to have a conversation, Daniel, at the local level among your consortium members. So now that we have spending by member, we'll have student data by member, it does start getting into member effectiveness. And that's going to be with the next phase of the 3-year plan. And we're going to put something in the newsletter next week about the 3-year plan and what it's coming, when the guidance is going to be released, when is that 3-year plan due, but it'll include a big portion will be about member effectiveness. And that's exactly what you're talking about there. So yeah, we will shift more to member effectiveness because we'll have all these metrics and data and things will be all in one place. So more to follow on that. So Lynette says, do all consortium members see each other's detailed budget and expenditure info? I believe within the consortia, we wanted to make this transparent, so although another member can't change one member's expenditures and budgets, they can view. So all members have access to view, and then it's the member can change their own budget, but nobody else can change that. And consortia has the ability to assist if they need some members have problems with putting in their member budgets and their member expenditures. So there's the ability, if they want, to allow the consortia lead to help them with that. And so Lynette said, can consortia leads edit other members' info? Well, they can edit it if allowed by that member. And so we don't want consortia leads going in there and editing a member's expenses or budget without their approval. So let's move on to the next slide. So here are the phases of NOVA. So we moved everything over, all the documentation from the portal to NOVA. So that's sitting there now. Phase 2 is what we're in right now, getting the 16-17 carryover and the 17-18 budget information into NOVA, as well as your current I guess it should say work plan based on your annual plan. And current annual plan strategies checked off in the work plan that's in process. And then phase 3, right after we do this, we'll start working on expenditure reporting and standardizing reports, and that'll be early next year. And then phase 4 is the closeout reports and leveraging funding, and that'll be at the end of the fiscal year, probably in, July, August. And then phase 5, which is later on once we get Launchboard up, connecting to student outcomes with Launchboard. So, and we're going to go into detail on each one. And so I'm going to speed along because I don't want to cut into Nicole's time. So replacing the portal, all historical and current plans and documentations were transferred over. Members will have a password with access and privileges to access documentation and their own member information. Nicole will talk about that. Consortia leads and a certifying officer will have their own access and privileges. The data will be loaded to AEBG website daily, and it'll have all those documents that you've grown to love and appreciate. CFADs, 3-year plans, annual plans, governance, you name it, will be on there. So Kristen asks, do these phases refer to CCCO phases, consortia phases, or both? They're really just the phases of NOVA. And so as we're building the system, so phase 1 was getting all the documentation into NOVA. Phase 2 is getting the budgets online. Phase 3, getting expenditures reports. Phase 4, getting the end of the year stuff. Phase 5, bringing in the data from the launch board. So it's not really a Chancellor's Office phase, it's more of a project phase. And Lynette says, South Bay Consortia, who becomes the certifying officer for the consortium? So that would be whoever's designated as the consortia lead, whoever you designate as that certifying officer. That could be a financial person, that could be the director. I'm going to have a webinar, I think, on December 1st to talk about consortia administration oversight. We did get a nice report from state auditors on consortia administration and consortia oversight. So we're going to share some of that information on the responsibilities of consortia, of the members' budget, members' expenditures, member effectiveness. Are the members following through on what they said they were going to do in the plan? Is this what you guys agreed to? So we'll cover all that as part of that webinar on December 1st. And so maybe that will provide a little more information on who you should decide is the certifying officer at the consortia level. Okay, so moving quickly along, so budgeting. As you know, budgeting for NOVA for this year will be the program year, which is the 16-17 carryover and the 17-18 new funding. It'll align with the work plan, so you'll click off those strategies from your annual plan, and then you'll put in your budget based on object of expenditure code. And then, let's see, one budget for the year, one work plan for the year. So that's great. And then, so I think someone asked this before, in order to complete your budget in NOVA, you'll need to know how much you're carrying over from 16-17 and how much is your 17-18 allocation. So that will be your program year budget. And your program year starts July 1, 2017 and ends June 30th, 2018. So every year we'll be doing a budget for the program year. So you won't have to like, oh, this is year 1, this is year 2, this is year 3. It's one budget, one plan, all in one system. Okay, let's move. So, so somebody asked about budget revisions. So we're working on that process. Members will be able to go in and revise their budgets on a regular basis. There'll be a member certification process. There will also be a consortia level certification process. We're trying to find out, is there a percentage that we should allow members to do on their own? Is like 10% or 12% or 15%? Can a member do that without consortia level certification? and then anything above that would require consortia level certification. The state does not want to get involved in budget revisions, so we keep this either at the consortia or membership level. That way we lessen the levels and layers of bureaucracy. Also, allocation adjustments will require state level approval and 100% member certification. So, but like I think it was Lynette asked about, can we adjust our CFAD? Yes, you can. And we'll work through on that certification process because we want to make sure that all members were in agreement with that adjustment. And so the system has the ability for everyone to acknowledge that that's okay to do when you adjust your CFAD or your allocation. And we're working on that process to make sure that that's able to have 100% member certification so we can go forward with that. And then I talked about when we have that webinar, consortia leads will provide administrative oversight of budget approval, budget revisions, and the allocation process. And we're figuring out what levels of approval are needed on some of those areas. Okay, I see Crystal's typing me a question. So expenditure reporting, expenses will be reported by object of expenditure code only. Like I said before, no reporting by project area or objective. We talked about expenses will combine 16-17 carryover and new funding to make one expenditure report. Members will have to show 16-17 funding, what was expensed last year, in order to calculate the carryover. So you'll do that separately outside of NOVA. You'll calculate what your carryover is from 16-17, and then you'll put that into NOVA. And so that'll have to be certified at the member and consortia lead level. So there's some oversight in that. And that'll be the starting point for NOVA. The allocation of funds chart, there'll be like a little box above that'll keep your, it'll show your 16-17 carry-in, and it'll show your 17-18 allocation. It'll track how much you have left during the program year. So we hope to incentivize the spending of AEBG funds within 2 years. Spend down that carryover first, and then spend that current funding. Hopefully we won't be having cases where we have prior year money. It's just prior year and current year. But that is okay, but we'll deal with that on a case-by-case basis. Reports. So here are some of the reports you'll see. Member budget and expenditure reports, work plan reports, consortia budget and expenditure reports, roll-up reports. I'm going to move on a little faster here. And other features. First in, first out, of course. End of the year report of leveraging funds and program fees. That'll be like in July or August. We'll have launch board data by member. We'll have launch board data with financial data. And we'll have consortia level metrics, outcomes, allocations, and spending. And here is the user's guide. If someone could cut and paste that in the chat for other people to download. This is on the website, of course. If you go under for AEBG grantees and look under NOVA information, it's right there, the user's guide, and a lot of other information. Let's see if I can, I don't want to even try to cut. Oh, thank you so much. And here's where, so when you go on, when you click on this, this is what you'll go to. And sorry, it's a little small, but it'll say NOVA. It'll have the user's guide. It'll have a Q&A from a recent webinar. It'll have this slide presentation as well as the webinar recorded, and then there'll be the NOVA login page. And with that, I'm going to go to the chat and answer questions, and Nicole's going to take us through the rest.
Thanks, Neil. And we'll be showing some screenshots on the slides to come. So if you'd like to expand your view, on the top right hand of the slides, you should see 4 arrows. If you hover over it, it says full screen. So click on that to make your view full screen. So again, my name is Nicole Alexander, and I'm with the AEBG office. And today I'm going to provide you with a quick overview of the AEBG NOVA system as well as go over a few helpful tips. But before we get started, I just want to do a quick intro to the system. The NOVA system was developed by Product Ops, which is a custom software development firm located in Santa Cruz, California. And Product Ops has partnered with the Chancellor's Office over this past year to bring us this application. We first started with the Strong Workforce program, and now we've launched AEBG, and from what I understand, there'll be more to come. In the interest of time, this is a condensed version of the navigation of the system where we'll be highlighting the key areas. These are the areas that you'll need to know in the coming weeks, and especially to meet that December 15th deadline for your work plan and budget. The full version of the navigation of the system is available on the AEBG website. You can access the recorded webinar from October 20th. So as you are all aware, and Neil mentioned, we launched the system on October 25th. And based on the number of emails, many of you have already jumped on the system and started using it, which is great. That's really what we want to see. So I'll move to my next slide. So here is the login page. Once the system launched on October 25th, all users received an email from NOVA with their login credentials. In some cases, this email was directed to folks' spam folder. An easy fix for that is to use the Forgot Your Password feature. You would simply type in your email address under the login and click on Forgot Your Password. That will reset your password and resend you an email to be able to log in. Now that works in some cases. In some cases, if you did not receive an email and you're still not able to log in, that's because you probably weren't identified as a user and are not in the system. We pulled the contact information from the portal and from the CFAD, and as you all know, the portal, we had a limited number of users that we were able to have for the portal. So in some cases, we do have some primary contacts or some consortia leads that did not make their way into the system. If you're a member, if this is the case, I would suggest that you contact your consortia lead. Your consortia lead has the ability to add contacts on behalf of the consortia and for the members. If you are a consortia lead and you did not receive your email, then please contact us and we'll have to get you set up in the system. So there's two types of access levels for the system. There's the consortia level and there's the member level. At the consortia level, you can identify the type of user that you are. All consortia level users have edit and view access for the consortia and for members. If you're a primary contact for the consortia, only you have the ability to add users for the consortia and for the members. For the member level contacts, you have the ability to edit member information, but the member representative has the ability to add contacts on behalf of members. And as has been mentioned before, NOVA is an open system. It's designed to be an open system wherein all NOVA users will have view access to everything in the system. However, editing privileges are limited to your level of access, whether you're at the member or at the consortia level. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. This page shows the main consortia dashboard. This is what you'll see once you log in. On the left-hand side of the screen is your navigation page. This is how you'll navigate to the various areas once you get into your consortia. This is the first screen that you'll see. You'll want to make sure that under Funds you select AEBG. And from here, you'll see the full list of the consortia. As we've mentioned, all users can view everything. You can use the filters at the top to search by consortia name or by funding stream to find your consortia. Okay, and I see a quick question here. The deadline I'm referring to, and we'll get into that in a little bit, is the deadline to submit your work plan and budgets by December 15th.
Nicole?
Yes?
We also had a question from, I think it was it from Paul? About a login. Let's see if I can find. Paul said, what if you already have a working login, but AEBG program is not appearing on your screen.
Okay, we'll get into that when we talk
Does
about
that mean they're
the tips, but you might want to check your profile on the top right-hand side of the screen. Hover over your name, get into your profile, and make sure that AEBG is checked off under your profile. And if that still doesn't fix it, then please contact us. Okay, and so moving into the next page, we're just kind of showing the main pages here once you log into the system. Again, you see on the left-hand side is your navigation window, and that's how you get to all of these various pages. But here is a view of the document repository, which houses all of your consortia, annual plans, and CFADs. So we've taken everything from the portal and we've loaded it all into Nova. And as I've mentioned before, the left-hand side contains the navigation pane, which is how you navigate to the various pages. Okay, and moving into the next page, this view is your member contact page. Once you log into your consortia main page, you'll see a listing of your member agencies. When you click on your particular member agency, it will take you to this page view, which is your member contact page. And this view displays all member information and contacts, and this is where you can add member contacts by clicking on the Add Contact button on the lower right side of the screen. Okay, moving into the next slide. This is where you will find your work plan. You can navigate to this area from the left-hand side blue navigation pane on the left-hand side. And as we've mentioned, work plans and budgets are due on December 15th. So as we've mentioned, AEBG Nova is a member-level driven application in that the work plan and the budgets are reported at the member level and then rolled up to the consortia level. To complete your work plan, you would click on the strategies that you plan to address within the AEBG program objectives. And as Neil mentioned earlier in this presentation, these strategies are pulled from the annual plan that was submitted by your consortia. Once you're done, you would click Next or navigate to the budget area from the menu on the left-hand side. That's all you have to do there to complete your work plan. Okay, and here we'll see, here is your budget area. To complete your member budget, you'll input your 16-17 carryover funds and enter your budget object codes and descriptions. Once you're done with both the work plan and the budget, you can share PDF. You can send it to your colleagues. You can send it to yourself. You can also preview it by clicking the preview button. Once you're ready, you would click Submit. Okay. All right, and then this slide demonstrates the approval flow. So here you'll see that at the member level, you would click Submit, and then it would get to the consortia level. The consortia level, once you submit as a member, it's locked. You can unsubmit. You can always share the documents as a PDF. And then once it gets to the consortia level, then the consortia would certify on behalf of the consortia. All right, so I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions.
Yes, we do, Nicole. We have one from Tracy.
Okay.
And Tracy said our login access is not working. Who should we look for?
You can contact me through AEBG TAP and we'll look into it. So if it's a case where your password's not working, you can definitely contact me and we can look into that for you.
Okay, and then Kristen said, some members report they do not have an Add Contact button appearing. Is this functional already or is this something to come? So if they want to add an additional contact at the member level, is that something they can do now? This should be
something that they can do now. This is something that the member representative has the ability to do. So they should be able to see that Add Contact. If not, we'll have to look into that for them.
So maybe the person's not a member representative, so they might not have access. Could that be the issue?
That could be the issue, yes.
Okay. Okay, and then Sherry said with State Center, they're missing a member. How do they add that member into NOVA? Not just a member name, but the whole member. So like a school district that should be there is not on their list, and so they want to add that.
That is a very good question. That is not something that I've encountered yet. So if you could contact me or submit a request through AEBG TAP, and we'll work with you on that.
Okay, and then there's a few other questions, but we'll let you. We'll check back in with you in a few minutes after you go through the other slides.
Sounds good. Okay, well, so now we're, I put together some tips. I've worked with many of you over this past week, which has caused me to learn a lot and learn the system. And so I just thought I'd share some of the things that I've learned. So the first thing that I've learned is browser compatibility. We've learned that if you're using Safari and you're experiencing problems, that Safari is the least compatible browser with the NOVA system. So try to stay away from using Safari. That might solve some of your issues. The ideal browser for the optimal experience navigating the NOVA system is the Chrome browser. Okay, and as we talked about just a few minutes earlier, you'll want to check your profile settings to make sure that you are associated with the AEBG funds and the correct consortia. On the top right, upper right side of the screen, you should see your name once you log in. If you hover over that, you'll see a button to click on your profile. Okay, and as we've mentioned as well too, you can use the forgot password feature located on the login page if you did not receive an email from NOVA, or if you've forgotten your password, or if you can't find the email. Again, if this feature does not work for you, please contact us and we'll try to figure out your problem. Okay, and as a reminder, consortia primary contacts have the ability to add and remove contacts for the consortia and for member representatives. If you're not seeing that add contact button, please contact us. And again, member representatives have the ability to add and remove contacts for their member agency. And also, when you go to add contacts, it will take you to a pop-up window which will show a list of names that you'll have to choose from. If the person that you're trying to add does not appear in that list, it means that they need to be added to the system as a user. So the first step in doing that is you'll want to click on the link that says can't find the contact you're looking for and follow the prompt. Basically, the individual that you're trying to add will need to complete their profile. I've provided the link on this slide. They'll need to complete their profile first. You'll want to give it a few minutes, and then their name should appear in the drop-down list for you to add them as a user. All right, so that's all the tips that I've learned this week and that I wanted to share. So I guess now we'll just move on into questions.
Okay, so let's start with Crystal. She says, I'm the consortia lead and I don't have those edit buttons by my members' names. All the members showing on NOVA have been replaced. What can I do? So maybe that's something we follow up on afterwards, Nicole, or are you familiar with that?
That sounds like something we need to follow up on. So you're not seeing the edit buttons and you're not seeing the add contact buttons.
Could it be that they're not viewing the right screen, or if they're seeing something, they should be able to see everything? So
you'll want to get to the screen where you click into the member profile and you're in the member contact page. And from there is where you should see the button that says add contact. If it's not showing, then that you might want to make sure you're not using the Safari browser. If that still is not helping, then I would contact us.
Okay, and Lynette can't find any of the documents from the portal, like the CFAD and the 3-year plan and all those other documentation or documents that we brought over. Is there a certain trick to clicking on the file box to find those documents?
Those files should be there. So again, please contact us and we'll look into that.
And it could be your browser, or it could be you're not clicking on the right. Yeah.
It could be your browser.
Okay, and then...
But they should appear in the document repository.
Right. And then Kathy wanted to clarify the certification level. She said we would assume that something has been approved at the consortium level and the certifying information should match. So just trying to understand her question. The way the process works, the member goes in, puts their information, they certify it, and then it goes up to the consortia level, and then once the consortia level certifies it, then it's frozen for the state to review it. Is that how that works, Nicole?
Yes. Yes, as far as I understand. Okay, and
right.
Ryan is saying for your documents, they're stored at the consortia level, so you want to make sure that you're in the main page of the consortia dashboard.
Okay, and then Jose said, is it advisable for financial staff to consider attending the training next week in Santa Maria? I promise that if people go to that training, since we only have a few people, we have like 15 or 20 and there's room for 80 or 60, that I will cover financial information, I will cover NOVA, and anything else you want to talk about, because I think we'll have plenty of time. So if it's not that far of a drive for you, because Santa Maria is a little remote, feel free to attend the training. You can go on the website, click on the training, and sign up for the AEBG regional training in Santa Maria on March 8th, or I'm sorry, November 8th, sorry. Let's see. And then Sherry has another question. Out of 1617 funds we allocated to a member in addition to their regular funding, how does that get rolled into NOVA? It was used to contract with ROP to provide CTE programs at some of our schools. So you would have to, it sounds like you would have to adjust your CFAD to show that additional funding. And so if you allocated member additional funding on top of their base or whatever you put in the CFAD, you'll have to go into NOVA and update the CFAD. And so we can work through you on that process. Lynette said, at the consortium level, we have 3 names. Do all 3 certify? And I'll leave that up to Ryan and Nicole, but I think we only need 1 check of the consortium level certification. Just because you have 3 people at the consortium level, I don't think all 3 of them have to certify. Is that correct, Nicole?
Yes, that's how I understand it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. This is Ryan. So the consortium lead contact would be the person responsible for certifying the budgets and plans once they're submitted.
All right, thank you. And then Anna says, what about the training in San Bernardino, which is the following week? Will it be the same? I will stick around and answer financial questions and NOVA-related questions. That one is a little bigger. I think we have about 70 people signed up, but I will be available at that training to answer any financial-related, NOVA-related, budget expenditure-related questions. So you'll have my undivided attention in San Bernardino if you choose to attend. And then Lynette says, can we offer to host a Northern California Bay Area NOVA training in December or January? I don't know. We'll take that under consideration. I know Jay Wright and I will be in the Bay Area in January. We have the summit down in Los Angeles in January, but I'm sure we could work something out. Maybe we can get Nicole out of the office. Ryan is in the Bay Area, but I'm not sure if they let him leave the Santa Cruz County line. So we'll check into all that. And feel free, Lynette, to contact us with that suggestion. And if you have dates and a location, we'd love to work with you on that. And Paige said, how about training for the far north, like Reading or Chico? We'll see pending the schedule. We are going to do some training, some regional training, I think in Oroville in January or February. Jay and I are working at that schedule. So we'll see if we can parlay that into having a program and financial training on the same date. And Tracy says the budget setup is due December 15th, and we have due dates for expenditure reports. So we're working on that, and I thank you for bringing that up. So what we plan to do for expenditure reports, so when a quarter ends, we want to give the members 45 days. In the past, it was 30 days. We're looking at giving the members 45 days to certify their expenditures because we know 30 days wasn't enough. Then, in addition to the 45 days for the member, we want to give the consortia an additional 30 days to review the member expenditure report. And so you'll have all that extra time to submit that to the state. And so what used to be 30 days for everything, we're looking at giving you, 2.5 months to certify. So that would be 10 weeks rather than 4 weeks. And so we think that should alleviate any purchase orders that are outstanding, timesheet information that gets delayed that should be allowed, so there won't be any adjustments to expenditures after the fact. And so we're working on that. That'll come out soon. That's the next phase that we'll be working on. So hopefully that's something that you guys in the field can embrace a little extra time. Okay, so I think that's the last question. We do have time for any additional questions. I did want to talk about consortia. Brandon brought up a question about, our consortia holds on to money, so where do we put that? So remember, this is member-based. There's no legal entity unless you're a JPA as the consortia. So a consortia technically can't hold on to funding. A consortia has to be connected to some member district, right? So that member district would have to fill out a budget even if it's holding money for the consortia. So your consortia budget would be made up of all your member budgets and rolled up. And so if you want to leave some at the consortia level, you'd have to designate a member or several members to be holding those funds. And then that gets rolled up. So technically, there's no such thing as a consortia as a legal entity, and so all those funds have to be dispersed to a member and put in a budget and designated such. So hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to explain that because that's come up a few times, and we never really dealt with that in the old system because we only got consortia level expenditures and budget, so people were able to do things like that, but not anymore. So we're getting a little more accountability here, and it's getting a little more streamlined and aligned kind of with accounting practices that are happening out at the district level anyway. So I'll pause. We have a few minutes, or actually we have more minutes for additional questions if anybody would like. And I'll continue talking. I know we have a few people typing. So don't forget November 29th for a live demo. Lynette, Nicole, this might be for you. They have 2 co-chairs in San Jose, South Bay. Do we select one for final certification? So who's the certifier if they have several co-chairs? You just pick one?
So I don't think we've developed that hierarchy just yet. I think right now all primary contacts have the same abilities.
So if they have 2 co-chairs,
so that's something that
Nicole, if they have 2 co-chairs, either one could be the certifier right now.
Right. And right now the way it's set up is internally they would need to decide who would be the submitter or the certifier.
Okay. All right. So that answers Lynette's question. I think we had a... Okay, and Veronica has posted, if you loved this webinar today and want to see the live demo, there's the link to sign up. Tickets are going fast. I'm sure this will be a sold-out event. There might even be scalpers, so be careful. Don't overpay for your NOVA live demo, please. So Carrick says it's the budget due, so let me just explain. The NOVA budget, 16-17 carryover and 17-18 new funds, is due December 15th. December 20th is when your revisions are due for the old 15-16 funding and the current data and accountability funding. So remember, we're using 2 different systems for 2 different sets of funding. So Jan says, will live demo be recorded or broadcast? It'll be recorded. It's always better to hear and feel it live, but we will record it if you can't make it. So NOVA is due 15 MIS. Well, I say Chancellor's Office system because MIS means a lot of things to a lot of people. And so MIS, Chancellor's Office system, the budget revisions are due on the 20th, not the expenditure reports. The expenditure reports aren't due until January 31st. Now, the NOVA expenditure reports are going to be due much later because we want to give you more time with the system. Plus, we're working on developing that. So just make sure you know that distinction. So I'll just go over it since no more questions. So NOVA due dates, budget, December 15th, expenditure report sometime later in 2018. That will include first and second quarter expenditures. It'll probably be in March. We'll probably have the members due in February with the consortia level certification in March. For the Chancellor's Office old system for 15-16 funding that you're closing out and the data and accountability funding, you'll be able to do budget revisions by December 20th, and then the expenditure reports will be due January 31st in the old system, and then for the 15-16 funds, you will close those out February 25th of 2018. Now, the data and accountability funding will run all the way through the end of next year. You'll do a final report in January and a closeout in February of 2019. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm sorry if I confused anybody. We are between systems, and we'll have to bear with us as we close out one system and move completely on to the other system. Okay, our operators are standing by for your questions. Due dates are on the AEBG site somewhere. I think the most current due dates are on the site. Once we finalize the NOVA dates, we'll put those up there. So JN, we're through December as far as due dates right now. So Debbie says, are all the dates you mentioned on the website? Same question as JN. Carrick, are we going to be rolling costless data into the system? Yes, but it'll be sometime next year once we get that data onto Launchboard and we do the data matching and all that fun stuff. So that'll be sometime next year. No timetable on when that's going to happen. Can members revise expenditures that have been reported in July to the chancellors? So we don't want to do that. We've never allowed for expenditures to change once they're reported. We did do some adjusting on the 15-16 money because we moved into a new system. And so that won't be a practice that we want to encourage, nor we will allow in the new NOVA system. Once the consortia level approves the expenditures, they will stick and you can't go back and revise them. So you'll have to do some adjustments during the next quarter or the following quarter to catch up with those expenditures or adjust them back or do some pending changes on your ledgers. Could someone type in the due dates into the chat for us? Okay, thank you, Veronica. And I think I listed these on the PowerPoint, so before we close, make sure you go on the lower left-hand column of this screen and download the webinar slides. And it does have those due dates for the 15-16 funding. So you can use that. So Crystal says, as far as carryover, 67 was reported as expended by the fiscal agent, but not necessarily spent by the member. So if the fiscal agent certified it as expended, so that's between the member and the fiscal agent, and I don't want to go there right now. So if the fiscal agent incorrectly certified the expenses, you probably need to contact us. Thank you, Veronica. And any more questions? I think Ryan had to run. Nicole is patiently waiting for any tough questions. Cheyenne is typing. Oh, just a thank you. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions. What is the TAP help number? I think it's something TAP, but Veronica will let us know. I don't necessarily call TAP, I just email them, but just in case, here it is. Oh, look at that, 888 TAP AEBG. Okay. I didn't know we were that fancy. Okay, any other questions? And we'll work with you through this. Nicole is really good about getting back to people on emails, walking you through the information. We'll do that live demo. We've been, any suggestions, we've been listening to you. We know in the old system there were some flaws, and we want to correct that in the new system. We do like the fact that it's member-based, a little more accountability, ability to connect that to metrics, to student data. So all good stuff for us. And so nobody's typing. I'm going to thank Veronica and Holly and Marjorie for their technical support today of working behind the scenes. We'll thank Ryan for calling in from Product Ops, and of course thank Nicole for all the hard work she's doing on the front lines, taking care of your needs as far as getting passwords and logins and figuring out the new system. So we'll look forward to, you can listen to this later on today. It'll be posted, the archived version, and then we'll plan for a live demo on November 29th. And since that's a Wednesday, I think those Wednesday webinars start at 1. And so we'll probably go 1 to 2:30, I think. And that'll give us plenty of time. That'll be 2 weeks before that budget's due. And so we'll go in and actually put in a budget. We might even get someone from Sac County to help us as a potential user, showcasing their talents in NOVA. So stay on alert for that. And feel free to email or call if you have questions. We want to make this work. We don't want this to be too confusing, and we'll be patient with you as we move on to that new system. So thank you so much. Nicole, any other last tidbits of advice?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for getting in the system and sending the emails. That means that people are in there and using the system. And now is the time to make sure that everyone in your consortia and your members, that everybody who has access and understands the basic functions of the system. So keep sending emails.
Thank you, Nicole and Veronica. Any housekeeping tips before we sign off?
Yes, everyone, please be sure to fill out the evaluation that will appear on your screen as soon as we close out the webinar. And be sure to contact AEBG TAP if you have any support requests, any technical assistance that you need. We'll be sure to respond to you.
And once again, that's 1-888-TAP,
All right, well,
AEBG, or what's the email, Veronica? It's AEBG at, TAP, I'm sorry.
TAP. It's tap at AEBG. Yeah, tap at aebg.org.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, and Christy Richardson is typing something. Hopefully it's short because we are signing off right now. And she's, thank you. Thank you, Christy. So we look forward to talking with you in the near future or seeing you back on the 29th. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.